Okay, this video is for life science, and I just wanted to pick up with our discussion about diseases. The other day, when I showed you this slideshow, we talked about the difference between infectious and non-infectious diseases. We said that infectious diseases were diseases that were easily spread, and non-infectious diseases were the diseases that were not able to be transmitted or spread through the air or person to person, etc. So if we think about a disease as anything that interferes with our body in the normal functioning of homeostasis, and then we also know that germs are everywhere, and again, they're microscopic, so we're not able to see them. So the question really is, so why aren't we sick all of the time? And the answer to that is that we have an immune system. I like to think of it as our body's own sort of military that is going to go out and fight infections. So we have certain lines of defense, but first of all, the immune system is the body's way of fighting and protecting us against infection and disease. Our first line of defense is skin. The hair that's in the nostrils, the mucus that lines the nose and the throat, saliva, and stomach acid. So since we are bombarded daily by millions and billions of germs, we do have this first line of defense, and sometimes that's as far as it goes. It enters and it gets captured by the mucus, or it gets sort of defeated by the stomach acid, and we no longer are going to be having that particular disease affect us. So it sort of comes in, but we do have this first line of defense that is there to try to save us from being sick. But if that doesn't work, and in some cases it doesn't, then we have what we call our second line of defense, which involves our white blood cells. White blood cells, which I just abbreviate as WBCs, they are the part of the blood, and I'm sure you did this in health. There's 4 components that make up blood: red blood cells, plasma, platelets, and white blood cells. And white blood cells are the ones that are involved in destroying any of the foreign matter that comes in. They engulf germs, they engulf bacteria, they try to basically protect us, and it's our second line of defense. And they also produce antibodies. And antibodies are the chemicals that identify and destroy germs that enter the body. So there is a more complex sort of description of the immune system, and you might have heard of like T cells and B cells and all of these other different things that we don't really need to know for our level in 8th grade. You could research it on your own if you were interested. But the body has what we like to call a memory system, and once you get sick with something, antibodies are made, and then the body remembers that you have gotten that strand before of illness, and the antibodies show up. They do what we sort of call a lock and key with the foreign pathogen that comes in, and you would never even know that you were sick. And so that's why we're not sick all of the time, because we do have this defense system. And then I just wanted to show one more slide here, because if the white blood cells still isn't sort of doing the job, and they will go to the site of infection and they'll try to engulf all of the foreign particles that they can, but sometimes we have to go to our third line of defense, and this is where we get what we call an immune response, and this is the resistance to an infection by a particular germ. So we get some inflammation in this stage, and this is where we really get those antibodies to sort of come and do the lock and key, and we call it an immune response. Now there are 2 different types of immunity. There's passive versus active. Passive is when antibodies that fight infection come from another source rather than the person's own body. And active is when antibodies are produced by the person's own body as a result of the body getting sick and making antibodies against that particular germ. So active is the ones that we produce by us being sick, and passive is what is going to get passed from another source than our own body. Okay, that is all I want to do today. We'll have more later on.